There's one thing you should know about me. I don't choose my victims. I just stand at a bar and wait for the mark to come to me. He's usually a businessman, or sometimes a businesswoman, and while they try to reel me in, I let them think they're winning. They buy me drinks, flatter and flirt, brush their hands against my thigh, tell me I look hot and black, then they offer me a ride. So I go home with them, have better than average sex, which, I might add, is due to my own efforts. Then when they're asleep, I steal their stuff. Say what you like, I'm thieving from a thief. Just because I thieve for money and they thieve for sex doesn't mean this isn't a damn fair game, a game I usually win. But last night, things were different. Last night, I met Elle Cleary. Elle, she said, sliding onto the stool next to mine. As in the letter? She gave me a sideways smile that crinkled her powdered face. What do you think, sweetheart? Do you have me down as a one-letter trick? I smiled. You're good. I'm also rich and thirsty. Mine's a gin and tonic, I said. She ordered Tanqueray with lemon, not lime, even though I'd given no preference. When I asked why, she raised a delicate eyebrow. If I'm going to kiss you, my dear, you might as well taste of the good stuff. They go home to Elle's. Elle's home, it turned out, was on the glitzy side of town, a tall terraced house with a fierce grey countenance composed of dark brickwork. Inside, there were artsy urns full of peacock feathers, not to mention wall-mounted photos of film stars like Ingrid Bergman and Lauren Bacall, ladies my dad was into till he died 10 years ago. But the only woman I could look at was Elle, as she stood in the classy half-light of her living room. While she mixed me a drink, I watched her profile, her pouting lips, her sloping shoulders, the grief in her blue eyes, not to mention those phenomenal breasts and stocking legs in stilettos. She passed me a glass of whiskey, ice cubes tinkling, and raised her own to mine. "To sluts like us," she said, with a smile I didn't buy, full knocking back the liquor. I put my own glass down on the sideboard and took her unawares by grabbing hers too, slamming it down and pulling her face to mine. I felt her gasp of surprise as I pressed my mouth to hers, felt her whole body give as our tongues met. Then she leaned right onto me, her chest pressed to mine, her hands clawing my back, our bodies melding together. I'd never felt a lover so hungry. It was as if she was fighting for air. Besides, kissing her meant handling a dozen sensations, her soft mouth, her damp lips, the taste of liquor, the swelling breasts behind her layers. But when I finally walked her backwards towards the wall and slammed her against it, wet and hot and ready, my hips met hers, and there it was, the unmistakable shape of a hardening cock. I was so surprised that I pulled back for a moment, and as I reached out and poured her skirt, checking that I wasn't dreaming, the look on my face must have been priceless. "What's this?" I asked, my pussy thirsty as hell. "It's mine," she said. "Gonna run now, are you?" "What?" Suddenly I remember what she said in the bar, that her husband had run off with a friend called Pussy Galore, and when I put two and two together, I saw that her husband had left cock for pussy. What a bastard. My anger pricked. Elle said, "If you're going, just go." Her resigned stare settled on mine as if to say, how predictable. And suddenly, in her can't hurt me wantonness, she was Ingrid Bergman, and I was Cary Grant in heels. Down on my knees I went, running my hands down her body, feeling the rise of her breasts as she exhaled with relief, and I hitched up her skirt way beyond her stocking tops and found the prize itself. Within her black, silky panties, with their red lace trim, was the outline of a small, stiff cock, with a pair of tight little balls beneath it. Now, if you've never felt a cock through ladies' underwear before, you're missing out. Rubbing that smooth muscle through a kinky, silky layer is hot, 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 and then some. And to hear her purr above me, arching her back, her head thudding lightly against the wall, not to mention her cock hardening as I rubbed it through the silk, well, hot doesn't do it justice. In a moment I was unzipping her skirt and letting it fall round her ankles, and she was fumbling with my jeans, saying, "Jesus Christ, I need you." I'd never had anyone say that they needed me before. I felt crushed by the longing in her, and vital in ways I'd never felt. Soon my jeans and briefs were off, and I was falling against her in all my trimmed glory, rubbing my sex against that silky material. Then, dear God, let's not forget her tits. Her button pinged off as I tore her blouse from her, but neither of us said a word. We just panted and ground our hips even harder, the silk between us growing slippery. She pulled me onto her, then reached around to pull my buttocks, her mouth dipping back to mine and kissing me deeply. Then I felt her breasts behind her satiny bra and lowered my lips toward them. Oh, how I worshipped those pale breasts with their rosy-tipped nipples. I licked and bit and poured and squeezed until she was gasping for more, and then I was back on top of her, grinding against her perfect cock as tendrils of hair fell from her chignon and her cheeks flushed pink beneath her made-up face. Dear God, her moans were like the sweetest kind of torture, and her shivers of pleasure made me desperate to ride her. That's why I pulled down her silky briefs, revealing that smooth, pale cock of hers. Thank you so much.